And now I'd like to invite our two speakers up to the stage, up to the two chairs rather. Hanieh and Deborah, if you want to come on. All right, wonderful. So I'm going to ask, I don't know who wants to go first.
I think I'm right.
Okay, so Deborah's going to go first and give you her first story,
Okay.
her entrepreneurial story.
All right.
Take it away.
Do I need the microphone?
Yes.
Please. Yes? Okay. Damn. Okay, is that better? Yeah? No?
Is it on?
It is on. It's green. Is it on or what?
A little bit, I
A
think.
little bit. I have to put the sound up high. Okay, should I try again? Is that better? Okay, all right, then I don't have to talk so loudly. Okay, so thank you, Amy, and thank you, Founder Institute, for inviting me here today. My name is Deborah, and I'm an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur for many years. And just a quick background then, 5 minutes, I guess. Give me the stage and I'll be here all day. So stop me if I go on too long. My background is Greek English. Moved to Sweden when I was 11 with my family. Went to school in a place called Lygonis and then moved to Gothenburg to go to the university. Studied at Handelshögskolan, the business school of Gothenburg. Did a course called Small Business Management. It's called Management in Business, Management in Growth Companies or something like that at the moment. Changed it. And when I finished my degree, they asked me if I wanted to stay on. So I actually worked at the university for several years, and I also entered the doctorate program there, where I was going to study entrepreneurship. And I did this for a few years, and believe it or not, when I started as a PhD student, I was the only one at the University of Gothenburg, or Handelshögskolan, that was doing entrepreneurship, which was pretty boring because I really didn't have that many people to talk to. So in the end, they created this course for 10 of us that were doing the subject in the whole of Sweden. And it sounds like it's 100 years ago, but it's not. So as a subject, it's actually quite new. Anyway, I wrote my first book, and then I decided that was the most boring thing I'd done in my whole life, so I just had to leave. And at the same time, my brother he was a captain in the Swedish Army, and they were also doing a program with reorganization, and he was asked if he wanted to leave, which he did, because at that point he also had enough of being within a structured state organization. So that was when we started our first business together. There was a company called Roundtable, and we sold children's games on CD-ROMs. This was in the late 90s, so I've been in the digital and gaming world since then. Roundtable was sold to a Norwegian company, and then I worked for them, Pinata, for a couple of years, and then I was at home with my daughter. When I wanted to start work again, I didn't want to be employed. And but I didn't have a business idea. I had no idea what to do. So I started working as a coach at an incubator here in town. And I was introduced to someone who wanted to find a co-founder, because he was a techie guy, but he wasn't interested in the business side of things, and I was interested in the business side of things and not very technical. So we started a company called Craft Animations, which does software for 3D animation, and the company still exists today, which is great fun. And currently I'm running a company called Friendbase, which is a virtual world for teens, where we have a mission where we want to make the online world a friendlier place. so that's a huge challenge, but great fun. And so that's what I'm doing at the moment. What can I say more? How am I off time-wise? A couple minutes more. Frembase has been going since 2013. We have had loads of challenges in the company. We'll get back to that, I think, during the Q&A. Currently, we're on a high because we were in Istanbul a couple of weeks ago, where we won a pitching competition, which was great fun, out of 93,000 applicants. So we're actually quite proud of ourselves. And what we have in front of us at the moment now is to close some funding and to recruit more people so that we can grow and expand our team. And also we're going to open an office in Istanbul, so it's a lot to do. Okay? Yeah.
Hi everybody, my name is Hanieh and I'm from Iran. I came to Sweden as an international student and I had a bachelor degree in English literature in Iran and I just wanted to continue my studies and I just got admission for a master in English literature and the whole dream I had to be English professor at university. And that was the only job I could think about at that time. But then I came, the first week of studying at Dalarna University, our professors told us, if you're looking for PhD positions in literature in Sweden, don't do it. It never happens. They're fully, there's not open position. So for me, it was just that all my dreams are gone. So what should I do? Should I go back to Iran or stay here, live a new life? So I came to Gothenburg and totally changed my field, and I studied software engineering and management. It was tough. It was a huge change from the world of literature to tech. And I hate actually computers at that time, working with computers every day. But I did it, and I graduated. That's the thing, I like it. And when I was studying, the idea came to my mind, I can do this for my thesis. And I had a very good supervisor for my thesis. Also, when I was studying software engineering, and later on that I got my master in artificial intelligence. And he encouraged me that you have great ideas and you can make business on your thesis. And that supervisor that influenced me to start a business is here actually tonight, Reza. And so to that time I couldn't even think that I can even start a business. So I was started. I found the first company, Tricks, which is now a multinational firm based in Gothenburg. We have customers from different parts of the world: Canada, Australia, Iran, China. And the second company I founded, which is totally tech company, we have produced an artificial intelligence platform with a vision that make AI available for all who does not have expertise in this field, and to make it affordable and available for smaller companies to bigger companies that do not have the AI expertise. And so now I'm working basically, most of my time now goes for cloud ecosystem, working with AIs, new ideas comes, and the development of the marketing. We need, go through the challenges. But the whole points of tonight actually that I want to share with so many female entrepreneurs or future entrepreneurs is that entrepreneurship is like a journey, and it's like all the journeys you need to be equipped before you start it. And you need to prepare yourself to overcome the challenges. all the entrepreneurs have challenges. The female entrepreneurs have more challenges. You know that. You need to overcome with the stereotyping. You need to overcome with your roles in the family. If you're a mother, if you're a wife, it becomes whole your life, and you need to overcome all of these challenges. But the thing is that the success is survival. I'm very influenced by Guy Kawasaki that says that anyone can survive when everything's going right. Great entrepreneurs are those who can survive when everything's going wrong. And the most success criteria for entrepreneurs are they know the art of survival, actually. So what I want to encourage you that overcome your fears, just go for your ideas, believe in yourself, and you will make it happen. And sorry for my voice tonight, I have a cold, and that's the thing I wanted to share. But afterwards, I'm open to if there is any questions or specific.
Great.
So I made it short.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so I know people in the audience, I'm wondering, we talked about the ecosystem and the mentors, and I mentioned the percentage or the disproportionate percentage of mentors, and I'm just curious if you could share if you've had a mentor or someone inspiring that's helped you throughout your career that you give credit to helping you with your success today.
Yeah, the most influential person, as I told, was Reza, who always encouraged me that I can make it. And he actually encouraged me to make my idea a business and make the influence from your, when you have an idea and you want to influence the world, you have to start something. And I didn't have any official mentor, and it's a pity. If I had a mentor, I shouldn't go through all the mistakes and everything myself. I learned from them, of course, but it could be shorter way, it could be easier. So it's quite valuable to have a mentor. But I've learned, and I have actually had a board of advisors for all my companies, and but not an official mentor.
I haven't had an official mentor either, up until today actually, where I got a mentor from the gaming industry, which I'm hugely pleased to welcome on board with us. But I think that people who have meant a lot to me are, of course, one person that's been with me my whole time as a company owner and an entrepreneur is my brother. We communicate daily, even if he lives in Stockholm. He's my absolute best sounding board, and I think that he's one of the few people that doesn't see me as completely mad, which helps. Apart from that, I've always started companies together with other people. We have always been teams that have started. When we started Romelix, it was me and my brother. When I started Craft, it was me and a developer and a visionary guy, so we were three then. When we started Friendbase, it was me and a developer. So it's always been together with someone else. And I think that they have been instrumental in the successes in the businesses, that we've always had someone to talk about, to talk to. We've shared the same goals and visions with the company, which has been really, really valuable.
Great, thank you. So it sounds like definitely having a mentor would be helpful earlier on, and that's again one of the things about the Founder Institute that we're proud of, that it's based on a mentorship relationship. So, and you both alluded to some challenges. I wonder if you could expand on some challenges that you've experienced in your entrepreneurial journey.
Yes, a lot. No, It's challenging to be a woman as an entrepreneur. It's just the way it is. I mean, it's you get treated sometimes, not always super positively. If you are a female that wants to work in a tech-oriented business, a lot of investors will automatically look for the male CTO who knows technology. When my male CTO had to do something else and I was left by myself to go out to find funding for Friendbase, I got that question the whole time. Who is your CTO? Where is he? And it was really hard. And I actually got advice from several people that it may be a better idea to employ a young man who went out to do the pitching, because that would be much better. So yeah, it's challenging, and I mean, you have to believe in yourself, and you have to believe that you actually can achieve what you want to do. I'm hoping that it will work all the way anyway, but we'll just have to wait and see. But it is challenging, yes, so you really have to find people that you trust and find people that can support you, or find a male co-founder. It's as simple as that.
I think you covered most of the challenges in a way, but being a female business owner is always a challenge. You cannot count the challenges both from the family life. You need to take care of the family. You need to take care of home. You need to even it's not your duty. You feel psychologically, you feel stressed about home stuff, and on the other hand, yeah, in the business world, they ask you, have you done it? You done it. You did the program. You did the architecture. And you face sometimes the reactions, I don't believe it. If you want investment, so you will face people say, no, if you are the main tech responsible in your company, no, we won't invest in your company. Yeah, but it doesn't mean that you need to quit. You need to fight. You need to fight, and you will be successful.
Sure. Just to add to that, I mean, this is an issue that more and more people are aware of, and I mean, more and more people talk about it. And there are more and more different programs to encourage female entrepreneurs and to help female entrepreneurs. And I thought something that I thought was absolutely fantastic from coming back from Istanbul was that the 4 top winners of the Startup Istanbul Challenge were all women. That was so cool. And it was me from Sweden, it was a woman from Indonesia, a woman from Dubai, and a woman from Tunisia. Super cool.
Great. So one last question before I open it up to the floor. If you could talk about advice that you have for aspiring female founders.
Not a specific female, but what I said that just you need to fight with all the stereotyping, all the inappropriate behaviors you see and you face. Business world is not an exception from the other worlds. Females have their own challenges, but the most important thing is that you yourself don't underestimate your power and your abilities, and believe in yourself and go on. That's the most important thing.
I would say that I would recommend that you start your company together with someone else. It doesn't have to be a male person, but just it's so much easier when you're a team from the start, because there is so much to do. Sorry. And it is impossible to do everything yourself when you get busy and you have a lot to do. It's so much easier to have something to share with than to discuss and to try and find the path forward. I know that So that's something I would recommend. Find a co-founder. Initially, when you start your business, talk to potential customers as soon as you possibly can to get feedback from the actual customer on what they think about your idea. It's great to talk to friends and family to get their support, but that's just it. They will support you, even if maybe they don't think your idea is absolutely the best. You'll always get positive feedback from your closest friends. So, and another great thing is that entering a mentorship program like the Founder Institute, you will get real feedback on your idea, and that is very, very helpful initially. Final piece of advice, don't give up. That is one of the few things, I mean, if you do any interviews with other entrepreneurs that have succeeded, that is the key takeaway, is that don't give up, because it will be hard. Sometimes you will be really tired. Sometimes you'll be really, really upset that you're not getting forward. But keep your eye on the goal. Make sure that you drink champagne every time you sell something, and don't give up.
Okay, so we're here for your questions. This event is for you all. Who would like to go first?
Maybe just a short question. What would be your worst and best part of being an entrepreneur?
So best and worst.
Best is drinking lots of champagne. No, to be quite honest, when you actually succeed with something that you've set your mind to do, you are on such a high that it just lasts for days. It's fantastic. On the other hand, it's absolutely soul-destroying when you meet people over and over and over and over again that just don't believe in what you're trying to achieve. And I think that's one of the hardest parts of being an entrepreneur, is that you get so many no, and you really need to handle it. And I think, regardless of what feedback you get, is to not take it personally. To sort of, it's not you as a person, even if it does feel like it when they rain on your parade or try and kill your darling.
I said before in the other events in Founder Institute, and I would say it again, that the best part of entrepreneurship is that as an entrepreneur, your job is not only that you develop your business, it's your personal development. And you will be stronger and stronger and more improved. And you and your team development is the most important thing, because even great ideas can fail easily, and the history has shown many big companies also fail. But if you have the strengths and if you have a good and improved team, so you can start another project, you can start working on other ideas. So the best part of being an entrepreneur is this personal development. And the worst, I would say, just it's about some moments. It's not something general. Just some moments that you fail and you feel disappointed about the thing that you thought that you would be successful today, for instance, and you just being disappointed.
So I actually have two questions, so hopefully you can help me with that. I would like to know, firstly, you were talking about the team, very important and so on. How do you develop a great team that you really want to be part of and they also want to be part of your idea? But also the second question is about pitching. How do you create a good pitch so that you actually get good investors?
Okay, so team and pitching. Do you want to start with that?
A great team, you can make your team through networking, but the best thing, I would say, that you need to consider some basic and very important things when you're making your team. That what you really need, what you have and what you lack, and who is you're looking for. it's about talent. I have this talent, I can do this part of the business, but I lack this part. So I need a person who can help me do that part that I lack. And also I would say diversity. Diversity is very, very important in terms of age, culture, you know, educational background, industries. That's quite important to consider. Try to make diverse teams. That really helps in brainstorms, in decision makings, and everything. It really helps. What was it?
Pitching.
Pitching. It's to present yourself to get. Okay. You need to show that you're really believe in your idea and you love it, and you have the capacity to actually work on what you want to do. It's the first step, actually, that you can attract people. But it's so personal to personal as well, that who will attract you. But I would say that you show that you believe in your idea. That's very important. And you're very committed to what you want to do. You need to show this.
Okay, so team. We've already mentioned diversity and that you have different skill sets. The advantages that have been when we've formed teams is that I've always taken on the role of doing the things that everybody else thinks is boring. The admin, the legal, the financing, and then left it to the creators and the developers to do the fun stuff. And it's worked out really well. However, I think that when you have your team, it's really important that you have the same vision of what it is you want to achieve. And also that you have the same idea of how much work you're going to put into it. Because that is something that can easily create friction in a team if you feel that somebody actually isn't pulling their weight or doing what you had expected because you yourself have a completely different mindset. So you need to talk about this with your team before you get started. And you have to have a written agreement. And in that agreement you have to have a clause on what happens if you have to get rid of a founding member, because that is so hard. It's not hard that you actually have to get rid of someone. It's hard because you might not have agreed on what's going to happen with that person's shares. So if you're 3 people that have started a company and you own a third each and one person leaves, what happens to that third? You need to decide that while you're friends. Super important. When it comes to pitching, passion, knowledge, do your homework. Know who you are pitching to. Find out who they are, what are their backgrounds, so that you're not unprepared. What kind of, they might have already invested in 10 companies already that does similar things to yourself, so that you know what kind of person are you actually meeting. If you are pitching to an audience and you've been given a certain amount of minutes, again, do your homework. Practice, 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 because you only have then maybe 2-3 minutes and you have to stick to the time. Otherwise, they're just going to cut you off and stop listening.
But did you mean
Practice.
pitching to investors or pitching to, I think...
Yeah, to investors.
To investors, okay.
Did you want to add to that?
I got to the one.
Do you want to add to it?
Covered it.
Yeah, sure.
And speaking of pitching, we have the winner of Startup Istanbul, Deborah Lygonis, is going to give a workshop on pitching next year, January. So stay tuned to that and learn more about pitching. Other questions? Yes.
Hi, thank
Hi.
you for 2 really, really inspiring stories.
Thank you.
So my question is, as you mentioned as well that you get a lot of no's, right? When was the first time that you knew that you do have a good idea? I mean, even though you might get a lot of no's, how do you know, well, I should still keep going, but how do you also know that this is not a good idea, I should probably change it?
Yeah.
Great question.
Talk to your customers. I mean, at the end of the day, they're the ones that you want. You want their approval more than anything. For us in Friendbase, it's our membership. I mean, if our members like our platform, then we believe that we can continue, and we believe that we can go on. And the no's that we get from investors, well, we just haven't found the right people to speak to. It's as simple as that. You know, it's but speak to your customers, make sure you have a good product or service that they like and they want, and then you have their approval.
I think it has two-sided. One is that Deborah covered, that you need to talk to your customers and the people who are working for, actually. On the other side is yourself, to evaluate that if you are going on the track of your vision. And this happens, I think, for me it's every day. I evaluate it every day. So, am I doing it the right way? Is it going to the vision I have? So it's something, I think it's both-sided actually, yeah.
Great, another question?
Hello.
Hi.
I'm afraid I've been a bit spoiled, so I'm working in the mail area for all my life, and so far I've been lucky to encounter both respect and the value of my voice. I don't need to keep from that. So I wonder, have you found any difficulties or differences working in Sweden compared to other countries? Because I have a good experience working in the Swedish environment, where they take me as women, with the same values now.
If I understand your question correctly, you mean, do we feel have we experienced different attitudes depending on which country we are in?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, I've traveled a lot, but I've never actually run a business outside of Sweden yet. I've pitched to a lot of investors outside of Sweden. So, and I think that I haven't found any difference really in attitude, regardless if it's being a Swedish investor or an American investor, or now down in Istanbul, Turkish investors. I can't answer the question in the workspace because I don't have experience from that.
The country I come from, I came actually when I was 23, so I was not actually working that much when I was in Rome, but we have entrepreneurs, but of course Sweden is one of the best countries, but my knowledge is based on my academic knowledge, because the third master I got after this tech studies was in social science. I studied gender studies and working a lot with diversity and gender equality, and Sweden is doing great, but still it's a lot of work has to be done. To some levels we have managers as a women, but the lack of actual decision makers, real decision makers, and less women at board levels. But if you want to compare, if your question is to how are our different experience of different countries, or just you're talking about Sweden?
Your difficulties. If you find it more difficult to be taken serious in Sweden than in Africa, for instance, or if it's the same. Just so for me, I know what to expect.
No, I would say I haven't found any differences when it comes to that.
Thanks.
Okay, a couple more questions, yeah?
Sorry, I just want to refer to your question. I'm actually African, and I'm a Somali entrepreneur. I have a business based in Somaliland. And my question was to you. I wanted to create a link between Sweden and Somalia. And any advice on how to trade internationally?
Just, I would say that if you want to work internationally, you need to be aware of you need to have the intercultural competence. You need to go to the workshops and study and be aware of cultural issues to avoid cultural clashes, and prepare yourself with the at least the country you are working with. You need to be the sensitive parts of the culture, the basics, and that's the important part that should affect your communication and also business communication, definitely. So you need to be prepared yourself. And there are lots of workshops and many events in Sweden, in Gothenburg actually, that works and helps with these issues.
I don't really have anything to add. I'm not sure. Is it the questions on how to maintain the international relationships, or?
No, my question is in relation to trading internationally, bringing my products from Somalia to Sweden, bringing the raw material. Basically what I do is I have a health and beauty company. Like I mentioned, I'm a social entrepreneur, so the idea is not to create jobs for the local women, i.e. empowering them in the process. So the idea that was started as a social project has turned into business. So the business now is in a level where I need to trade internationally. So my question is, how can the easiest way to create a link between those two countries and bring my products from Somalia to Sweden? Any advice, or have you met entrepreneurs like myself?
From a practical standpoint?
From a practical standpoint of view.
From a practical standpoint, again, you mentioned that there are several organizations that could help, that have the knowledge. If it's questions of import, regulations and things like that, there are loads of different organizations that can help. When it comes to impact investing or impact business, that's something that's becoming more and more, I'm not going to use the word popular, but it's more common today that people are really interested in impact investing, and especially in organizations that actually do what you're talking about. And I think that one idea would just to start creating your own network, to find other people that are doing similar things, maybe that are doing things like that, but with other countries. I have a couple of names you can have afterwards, and just sort of talk to them about their experiences on how they have managed to do it. So, yeah. Network.
One last question before we go.
How much the budget affects when you start your idea? I mean, what was the most important thing or the first thing that you wanted to start your idea or company? Because, do you think that you need to have a basic budget, or just need to, what was that?
I think that before the budget, I think more important is the business model. How are you going to make money? Because that's something that you need to figure out. How am I going to make money, and how much is it going to cost me to actually be able to make that money? I suppose in a way that is a simple budget. But I mean, we have had an era with a lot of IT companies that have actually not really got a business model. Their business idea has been to gather as many people on their platforms or followers, and then later on the business model has sort of come along. But I think that that is pretty unique to be able to maintain that sort of life, or rather that sort of company style. And I think that a lot of investors are a little bit tired of that at the moment. When you say that, I don't know how I'm going to make my money, but we'll figure it out. You need to, I think that's the first question, is how am I going to make my money? Is anybody willing to pay for this? And then do it, and then work backwards from that.
Yes, definitely, yeah. Business model is important, but before you start, you need to think that how you're gonna make money. That is actually the basic part of the business model. And but the thing I want to say that you shouldn't be worried about money and for instance, for my case, I started from zero. And I was a student at that time that I started businesses along my studies. And sometimes I couldn't even pay when I had a meeting, I couldn't even pay for my coffee. I said, okay. But you need to consider, if you have money, of course you will have less financial challenges. But it doesn't mean that you cannot succeed. And so you need to go through it. And in Sweden, we have good opportunities for getting some, soft monies. I started with the money from Almi. That was for my innovative idea. It was a grant. It was not a loan. So you can start. In Sweden, it's a good country to start a business, actually. You have opportunities. And also do the networking. Maybe you get from friends and also your network a little money that you can start and go on. So networking, it's important.
Okay, just one last question.
Okay, so you already mentioned the hardest question probably that you get asked by investors, which is probably like, how are you going to make money? But could you mention the second question, like the hardest question that you ever got from investors?
Oh my God. I'll have to think about it.
Besides the CTO, besides...
Yeah, but I was just going to say beside the CTO or beside how you make money.
Not hardest question, but the worst comment I would say. Are you sure your idea works? So that's when they doubt about that you know what you're doing and you don't believe in your ideas. That's the worst. I wouldn't say the hardest.
Yeah. Yeah, I have to agree that when they absolutely do not share your vision, it's really hard. I pitched in Silicon Valley 2 years ago, and our whole idea is that we create a safe space online. And the whole panel said that was the most stupid idea they'd ever heard. So yeah, that was pretty hard.
Okay, great. So in a couple minutes, we're going to break into the mingle. And I just want to ask everyone to join me in thanking the speakers with a round of applause.